Hey, so this is an update video. I have made a few tweaks and thought I might pass them along to people that were following the video and give an update. We just went through probably, I guess, the worst power grid issue in Texas, as we had no power for about 48 hours, and temperatures were in the teens, if not in the single digits. This thing ran like a champ. And actually, I made these updates in the last... I made some of the updates before that event, but some of the bigger updates I made after this last run. But it did run solidly for about 48 hours, didn't have any issues, thank God. We were able to provide heat to ourselves, as well as we had another family stay with us. It kept likely some of my pipes from busting, as we don't really have the weatherized plumbing that some of the more northern states have. But just to run through them, first and foremost, which I think is probably a safety issue, in the first video I made, this regulator here was mounted, my understanding is it was considered to be upside down. A poster mentioned that the regulator could get stuck open if it was upside down. It wasn't really difficult for me to switch around. So in conjunction with raising the generator, you can see down there I've got some bricks, so I actually raised the generator up. This was important because when you go to change the oil, with it sitting on the ground, there was no room for an oil pan to slide up underneath here to empty the oil from that screw. So the bricks are working out great, no issues with them, and it gives me just enough room to get a pan up underneath there and change that oil. After the first 10 hours or so of running it, I did switch to a full synthetic oil, and that oil got me through 48 hours of runtime. I know the manual says not to go that long. It seemed to be okay, but I did change it as soon as the power came up. Well, it actually came up yesterday, but I changed the oil today. I also flipped that regulator over today. One other thing that has been useful, I added this tachometer, and so this is useful to make sure that the generator is running, somewhere between 3,600 and 3,800 RPMs. In order for the frequency for your power to be correct, that generator needs to be running at that amount of RPMs. I also turned off the idle control. I took some advice from some other posters that said, hey, you don't want that idle control on. It's going to do some weird stuff with your frequency, the power. I wasn't necessarily having any issues with it, but I figured, it seemed like good advice. I did some research on it. I went ahead and turned it off and got that tachometer to validate that I'm actually always getting the correct RPM. That actually helps also when you're doing the choke. Sometimes you have to kind of, when you're getting this thing set up, you may have to modify where the choke sits down there. It's typically somewhere in the middle, but it does have to, you may have to adjust it a little bit. And then also getting the proper gas flow with this nozzle here. The tachometer helped me determine that I was actually getting the right gas flow based on it, hovering around that 3,600 to 3,800 range, RPM range. That thing was super easy to install. You basically take this wire and wrap it around the spark plug, and that's it. And I think it's got a little battery or something in it. It just works. So other than that, I think that was the main thing. I think lifting it up too probably helps it breathe a little bit more. You get a little bit more airflow underneath the bottom of the generator. This thing ran for 48 hours. I had zero issues with it. And it was a lifesaver. We got down into the single digits and had no power for at least 48 hours. There were reports of people having close to temperatures of below 40 inside of their home, and even as low as freezing inside of the home. But we were running on gas furnaces. All the lights were on. We were able to watch TV. The internet was working for a while, but eventually did go out. But so thankful that we had this. And I think that's it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I had done, but I think those are the only tweaks that I've done. Other than that, this thing has been rock solid, well worth the investment. One more thing. I did add compressor savers to my AC units over here. What those do is, in fact, I'll show you inside of the panels here. You pop those off. You want to get the right tonnage, but it's almost like a capacitor, but it looks like a capacitor. The capacitors are inside of there as well. But what it does is it prevents that huge spike that you get when you start the ACs, and that was really helpful over the summer when we lost power a couple times. It keeps the generator from being overloaded. So I also have something monitoring my power usage in the breaker box, and I think these things were, when they would turn on, the older one was worse, but this one, it would turn on like requiring 7,000 to 6,000 watts. After the compressor saver, I got it down to only requiring about 4,000 watts, and then runs at about 3,000 watts or so. So huge savings, prevents the generator from dying out when those things are trying to start. Thinking about maybe moving up to the XP 1500. I'm contemplating that maybe the complexity with that generator is not worth the extra wattage. I know it's got fuel injectors and all this other stuff. This being super simple generator, you can fix it pretty easily. But something I'm considering, and if I get kind of more knowledgeable about these things, I may switch over. But this has been good enough. I think, although there's some struggling when both ACs are running, but man, this thing was a lifesaver over this winter blizzard. It wasn't even a blizzard. It was just, for Texas, it was considered a blizzard. But not having power and being extremely cold for over 48 hours. I can't say enough how much this thing was a lifesaver. So hope I could help everybody. I will add a link for the tachometer and the 321 compressor savers for the ACs. Other than that, the bricks at the bottom, they were just extra bricks I had for my house. And again, thanks for watching, and appreciate all the likes and comments. And please feel free to ask any questions, and I'll try to update when I can. Thanks.